The other day, I saw something interesting, piqued my curiosity. I saw that the Kenya Defense Forces or the Kenya military, they have a war memorial day or a remembrance day. And during that remembrance day, they go to all these military cemeteries to honor the war dead. And they march around there, they look all sad, and they say, they praise the dead in those military cemeteries. Now, if you didn't know, Kenya has very many military cemeteries. Many. You'd be surprised how many they are. And many of these cemeteries are maintained. The grass is cut, is very neat, and occupies a lot of prime land that can be used for development. Now, I wanted to discuss that, and it's a very sad situation. You know, more than sad, it's really, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. And it's also outrageous. It's completely unacceptable. Now, these are the things that remain hidden from the public view, but speak volume about what Kenya is. Now, my position is that Kenya is a colonial state. It still is a colonial state. It's not an independent country. It's ruled by an elite beholden to the Mzungu in England and, of course, Washington. So I'm coming from that point of view. And this elite does not represent the people of Kenya. It represents the British and the Americans and foreigners in Kenya. In other words, it's not our government. It's their government. It's the foreigners' government. You understand? They don't represent us. The government of Kenya has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with the West. It represents the West in Kenya. In other words, it's like an ambassador. The way you appoint an ambassador to go to a different country to represent you in that country. The West has appointed the elite that rules Kenya to rule Kenya on their behalf, at their pleasure and for their benefit. So it's government for the Mzungu, by the Mzungu, with the Mzungu. You need to understand that. So I'm coming from that point of view. Yeah, we do elections and we go through the rituals of elections, but the elections occur within a certain framework. And the framework is always white supremacy. It's Mzungu supremacy. You understand? This is a colonial state. This is still, a slave state. And this shows you, this situation about the military cemeteries shows you exactly what we are talking about. Now, when you go and look at the Kenya military performing the ceremony for remembering fallen soldiers, now you would think that these are their soldiers. But wait, these are their soldiers in the reverse way. I mean, think about it. Now, in those cemeteries, there are no Africans buried. Those are European cemeteries, okay? Commemorating dead Europeans in European wars. It has nothing to do with us at all. So you will see the Kenya military honoring colonialist troops, our enemies. The very same troops that attacked us and killed so many of us when the British invaded Kenya starting in 1890. They killed thousands of people. We pretend that they did not do it. They massacred very many people. They killed our prophets, like Koitalel Arab Samoy. That was a true prophet. They killed our prophet. They slaughtered many. They stole a lot of cows, goats, the best land. They raped thousands of women. I know this is not taught in school because the elite, they have to cover up British crimes. They raped thousands of women. And let's not even talk about during the 1950s, how many people they killed, how many people they put in concentration camps, how much they tortured the people. I mean, torture, which is a crime under the Geneva Convention, which they signed, right? But they still did it in Kenya. So these same colonialist troops are the ones who are buried in these military cemeteries in Kenya. And it is these troops that the Kenya army goes to honor. They go to honor our national enemies, criminals who are now dead. So ask yourself, why would an African honor the very same people who raped his ancestors? Why would you do that as an institution? You would do that because it is the same institution. I want you to understand that when the British were doing all this criminal activity using their military forces, a significant percentage of those forces were Africans. Okay? It was a combined force of Europeans and Africans, because they had gotten some sellout Africans to join them in attacking the other Africans. Now, these Africans who were part of the British colonialist troops, it is them who eventually constituted what is called the Kenya Army. You understand? So, which is why in Kenya you will not find a single cemetery dedicated to the Mau Mau. Not one. Who was the enemy of the Mau Mau? The Kenya Army. Do you understand? Who was the Mau Mau fighting against? They were fighting the Kenya Army. Half of the British troops that were attacking Mau Mau were Africans. Now, when the fake independence came, the people who were given power were the enemies of the Mau Mau. It's the traitors who got power, who were handed over power by the British to represent the British. You understand? So, the Kenyan military, the Kenyan armed forces, the ones that inherited power at independence, were the same forces that were attacking and killing the Mau Mau. Which is why you will not find them honoring the Mau Mau, because as far as they are concerned, the enemy is Mau Mau. The enemy is Africans. The enemy is patriotism. The enemy is nationalism. Their ally is the Mzungu. And to this day, the armed forces of England occupy Kenya. They've been occupying Kenya for 130 years in collusion and cooperation of the Kenya with the Kenya military forces. So are you seeing what we are saying? That the Kenya military forces is an extension of the British military, continuing the occupation of Kenya in the interest of the British and of course the Americans. Which is why you will never find the KDF going to a cemetery of the Mau Mau and honoring them and having any kind of remembrance day, because the Mau Mau is their enemy. They are employed by the British, you understand, to hold down Kenya while the British take the wealth out of Kenya. That's their job. So the guns that you see the KDF carrying, those guns are not there to defend Africans. They are there to defend British interests. You understand? They are not there to defend you. When they're saying that they are there to defend Kenya from its enemies, you need to understand that you, Mr. African, you, Mr. Kenyan, you are that enemy. You understand? Kenya doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the British, who have employed their army in Kenya to hold down Kenya while British corporations go through our pockets and take all the wealth. So that in Kenya, every single major company is foreign owned. Every single major company. And you heard what the elite did the other day. They allowed the British to bring in their manufactured goods into Kenya for 25 years tax-free. So when you're buying that Johnny Walker, the British are not paying any taxes, but you are paying 16% VAT. But the Mzungu who is selling it to you doesn't pay anything. So they benefit from not paying taxes, isn't it? And they make more money that goes back to Scotland. Now if you go to England, no one likes you. They despise you. But you're buying their Johnny Walker. Are you not? And they're not paying taxes. But you have to pay taxes. So they are given tax exempt status despite the fact that the state, the government claims that it really desperately needs as much revenue as possible because they have all these debts. But the Mzungu still doesn't pay taxes. That shows you who created Kenya and for whose purpose Kenya exists. Doesn't exist for you. So the military that calls itself Kenya Defense Forces is not our military. That's an extension of the British military still in Kenya. These are the same Africans who were in the colonial army to suppress other Africans for the benefit of the Mzungu. It's the same institution, unchanged and reformed. Going to cemeteries, crying over dead Mzungu colonialists. In 2021, Africans are crying over a dead Mzungu colonialist. But they will never, ever, ever cry over a dead Mau Mau patriot. Think about that.